Welcome, bow betters. Welcome everybody to Reading the Tea Leaves. This is my evening escapade or my evening segment where I just discuss random stuff. I might talk about the Diddy case. I might talk about Kohlberger. I might talk about ancient Mesopotamian societies. I might talk about sort of self-reflection and a discussion of anxiety and depression. Maybe I'm talking about Star Wars, and today we are talking about or going to listen to Candace Owens' interview with Harvey Weinstein. Yes, hopefully Candace does not give me a strike or doesn't come at me for a copyright. But welcome, people. Welcome to Reading the Tea Leaves. How is everyone doing this evening? Let me get welcome, bow betters. Man, my tea is super hot. Super hot tea, super hot fire. There I am. Super hot fire. That's right, super hot fire, people. Welcome to Reading the Tea Leaves, where we read the tea leaves. That means like looking at things and giving an impression, throwing the tea into the water and saying, hey, my life's going to be better. Or, what is that? What is going on in the world? Let's see here. Okay. You can hear me. Throwing the tea into the water. It's great being back. But welcome, bow betters. And why are we discussing Harvey Weinstein and Candace Owens? Well, because, I was more interested in something else, but I doubt that you guys are interested in that. And I don't even know why I follow romance, for example. I have no idea why I watch some of these relationship coaches and discussions about relationships, especially more in the African community. So more than anything, right? Watching those things, it makes no sense. I don't know. It's almost like watching Jerry Springer to an extent, but not really, because there is some learning to it. I don't know what it gives me. Maybe a false sense of confidence. Maybe I don't know. I'm in a relationship now. I've had relationships. Yes, I've had problems with relationships, but me getting a relationship is never really the issue. So yeah, looking at myself and looking at the screen, it looks pretty good. Right? Welcome, people. Welcome, bow betters. Welcome to Reading the Tea Leaves. It looks good on the computer. Right? Whoa, let me show the chat here. All right. Yeah, let me show the chat. And I popped out the chat yesterday. And I think what was happening was that I wasn't seeing what was happening here in the chat. I think that's what occurred. So Harvey Weinstein, why? I guess it goes in the Kohlberger and even in related to the Diddy case in that are we looking for a manhunt? Right? Is this someone that is Harvey Weinstein the victim as opposed to the perpetrator? Like right out the bat, he says it himself. He's not a morally well-centered person, right? He's not a good man, right? He cheated on his wife. He almost admits to it. He just doesn't say it, but he almost admits that he was using his position and his power to have sex with these women consensually, right? He didn't. That's where the assault accusations and some of the other things sort of the meets the road where you have to look under the rock, so to speak. Like he is under the rock, right? He admits that he is morally uncentered, and I think that indirectly he was admitting that he was using his power and his position, his money, and his ability to get you famous and to provide you with influence in exchange for a relationship, right? He was transactional, right? Like you do this for me, right? And you'll see later on in this interview, for example, he addresses the Gwyneth Paltrow issue. Let me turn that up here to make sure that when we are listening to this, that it might come through, right? So this is taken from the Candace Owens interview, and I'm surprised that Candace Owens got this interview. I think what Harvey Weinstein is doing, he's in a retrial. So I don't see why he's out there in the court of public opinion. I think he's doing the wrong thing. I think Kohlberger, for example, is doing the correct thing. That if you were in this situation, why attempt to garner favoritism or something from the public when it's the same public that vilified you, right? During the Me Too movement and years ago, the public as well as the media, and a lot of people, I think that's an excuse. I think that they wanted you because you did do something wrong, Mr. Weinstein, right? Like if you know, where there's smoke, there's fire. Like, you know, you may not have assaulted these women nor coerced them against their will, but that, you know, you admit that you weren't a well, you know, a good ethical nor moral person, which leads me to believe you're sort of saying that I use what I got to get what I want. And I get it that it isn't illegal to do that, right? You didn't undress these women. You didn't throw yourself at these women, or supposedly, allegedly, right? This is all allegedly. It's all speculative here. But there was something, you did do something, right? Like there was, he admits that for Gwyneth Paltrow even said, ugh, when he suggested that he, get a massage, right? That she give him a massage, that she was grossed out and supposedly he said it as she was leaving, right? So it's one of those things where he may have been accused wrongly of a crime, but he definitely is not accused wrongly of being a scumbag, for being a POS, right? Like he admits it himself that he's a POS, but they didn't have that wrong. Like the guy is a scumbag, right? So let's listen to a little bit of the interview. I think right out the gate that this was a little scripted on his part, which was smart, right? Candace Owen, I think, is relevant in this, but let's listen to Harvey Weinstein.
Clearly, I believe women should be heard, but I'm wrongfully convicted. You know what I mean? And right now, I'm not convicted. I'm on a retrial. I
So
would
he's on a
like
retrial.
an appeal overturn my conviction. But justice demands a clear, honest look at each case. And I am here for fairness and the truth. You know,
Yeah, obviously scripted. I mean, like this guy is a movie guy. He might have had experience writing scripts. So him talking from jail, for him, it could also be another movie for himself. I doubt it. They're still, they didn't freeze his assets. He was tried criminally. I'm certain that there are some civil suits against him, but he still had so much money. If we look at, let me look at Harvey Weinstein, like his accusers, by the way, like it wasn't just one woman that accused him of sexual misconduct, right? There was Gwyneth Paltrow's one of the more famous persons, but she wasn't the most. Rose McGowan, for example, alleges that Weinstein raped her at the 1997 Sundance Film Festival. She received a $100,000 settlement and has been a vocal critic of Weinstein and Hollywood's culture of silence. Ashley Judd claims Weinstein invited her to a hotel room under the guise of a business meeting, then appeared in a bathrobe and asked for a massage. So there's a common theme here that he does. Is there anything wrong with that? Absolutely not. Right? There's nothing wrong with what he's saying. These women went willingly. They're adults. That's why even the Diddy case, it's very similar in terms of men of power that are using that power to. It is a coercion, but it's a willing coercion. Like it's done through a willing means, right? So then there's Gwyneth Paltrow, who said that Weinstein made unwanted advances toward her when she was 22 during the filming of Emma, which ironically was done by Woody Allen. She confided in boyfriend Brad Pitt, who confronted Weinstein. Angelina Jolie said that she had a bad experience with Weinstein in her youth, never chose to work with him. Selma Hayek accused Weinstein of pressuring her for sexual favors during the production of Frida. Annabelle Scoria alleges that Weinstein raped her in the early 1990s after forcing his way into her apartment. That's the only woman that accuses him of like forceful sort of entry and like a forceful assault. Asia Argento claims Weinstein raped her in 1997 at a hotel in France. Mira Sorvino says Weinstein sexually harassed her in a hotel room in 1995. So the hotel room seems very common here. Jessica Mann testified that Weinstein raped her in 2013 at a New York hotel. Her testimony was central to his 2020 conviction, which later overturned, leading to this retrial. Miriam Mimi Haley alleges Weinstein forcibly performed oral sex on her in 2006. Kajos Sokola claims Weinstein sexually assaulted her when she was 16 after inviting her to his apartment under the pretense of discussing her modeling career. Ambra Gutierrez, an Italian model who worked with the NYPD in 2015 to record Weinstein admitting to groping her, right? So admitted to Weinstein groping her. So got some, like it isn't an isolated case. Now, again, there's nobody in the chat. So this guy isn't completely just like Bill Cosby. Diddy's in a different area, different sense. He's got fewer accusers and a lot of people to corroborate that evidence, but Harvey Weinstein has a lot of accusers.
I made mistakes. There's no question about it. I hurt my family. I hurt my friends. I cheated on my wife, and that was
I don't know if you guys can hear this, so let me close this part of it out. Because it's going to play some of these. You won't hear that.
We believe there's something about your name. It's the pulse of progress, striking you squarely.
mistake, a terrible mistake, and I apologize to friends, family, all the innocent people who inadvertently I hurt, and especially to the Messick family, Jill Messick and her family. But I did not commit these crimes. I swear that before God and the people watching now, and on my family. I'm wrongfully accused. But justice has to know the difference between what is immoral and what is illegal. People would say my complaint is,
All right. See, so again, he's definitely reading from notes, as you could see, and he admits himself that what's immoral and what's illegal. In some places, for example, in certain societies, immoral acts are punishable, right? They're considered a crime, right? Like, and what is he saying there? Like, what ethics of his parts of his immorality besides his infidelity might he be alluding to, right? This is not good. I don't think he should be conducting this interview at all. I think he just admitted potentially that he did do something wrong.
Okay, I'm getting emotional. Everyone deserves a fair trial. Media doesn't favor me, but thanks to you, Candace, there's a voice out there, and Joe Rogan, and uses every opportunity, the mainstream media, to discredit me. But I speak for innocent people. Justice has to matter. Evidence has to matter.
Right, and if that's the case, right, what about justice for the victims, right? What about the evidential testimony? Because it is testimony, right? Joey was mentioning that earlier, that he finds like these cases boring, so he doesn't really want to discuss them. But it just he said, she said, right? Was there any? I don't know the case well enough. If there was any physical evidence of these events, whether videotape, DNA evidence, there weren't even witnesses that corroborate these statements. It purely is one person's testimony versus another.
Everything. I've lost everything a man can lose, but still the truth matters. I've been condemned of crimes I did not commit. I understand why people want someone to blame, but I am telling the truth.
And I think here that's something that he shares with Kohlberger, right? Like especially Kohlberger. And I think Weinstein, to an extent, to an extent, the same thing could be said of him. We wanted accountability, right? Society wanted accountability for these types of people, right? Because this sexual assault does occur and it happens a lot. I'm not trying to demean or diminish that, but we want it to be, the people that are perpetrators of it to be punished. But in that same thirst, in that same drive, were we hasteful? Did he get a fair trial in the effort or in this drive to have justice?
End of statement. End of glasses. And they allowed me to wear a suit today, as opposed to the last time I was in my t-shirt and pajamas. So they wanted me to wear a
This is
suit.
all.
So here it is.
To go from some.
Some have passed all through my life.
Right. I'm sorry.
The friends that stayed with me were my friends that I grew up with. The people that I knew before I was famous, before I had power. The people in my life whose
names. There were people who I think remained silent to you and stand up to you because you made her feel so uncomfortable.
We had one instance in a hotel room where he tried to.
So here's where he's talking about the Gwyneth Paltrow thing. I'm sorry to jump forward because there's no point of.
To him, I told my boyfriend at the time,
Brad Pitt.
We were at a.
And she's on Howard Stern
opening of Hamlet
talking about this,
on
which
Broadway
is
that Ray Fiennes
odd.
Was in Hamlet, and Harvey was there, and Brad Pitt. It was like the equivalent of throwing him against the wall, energetically. What he did was he leveraged his fame and power to protect me at a time when I didn't have fame or power yet.
Right. Wow. It moves you.
Yeah. It was fantastic. He said, if you ever make her feel uncomfortable again, I'll kill you, or something like that.
I mean, even saying that is risky for Gwyneth Paltrow, right? It's funny that we have to treat these stars differently than other people. Because if that were you or I, and this story came out, like next thing you know, if I were defending my girlfriend or my wife, I could go to jail for what was said, right? So it's just very interesting.
A complete fabrication, about my relationship with Gwyneth. I'm going to talk about it and just say that I had a meeting with her. She originally was scheduled to do Woody Allen's Everyone Says I Love You. Thank God I was distributing that movie as well. And I managed to substitute Drew Barrymore for Gwyneth so that Gwyneth could play Emma. And Woody Allen did us a real favor by doing that because we were scheduled to shoot Emma and I wanted Gwyneth for the role. At the end of the meeting, we had a glass of champagne. As I was walking out the door, I said to her, I'd love you to give me a massage. And she went, yeah. And, that was it. I didn't a hand on her. I didn't touch her. I definitely made a pass, I guess.
He admits that he
call it that. But that
did something inappropriate.
Was the sum total of that situation. She did have Brad call me, and Brad, very manly, very cool, just said, don't do that again. And that was that. We made 11 movies together, classic films, Shakespeare in Love, Talented Mr. Ripley, Sliding Doors.
He made Paltrow into a superstar.
Such a great partnership. And now I heard, that she thought the relationship was abusive. Anybody who was there, who witnessed that relationship,
right, again, but this is what he really is accused of leveraging, right? That he is a star maker is what he uses. That tool, that power is what he uses to coerce women into giving that massage and whatever else occurs, right? Like, she isn't the only one that had been solicited for a quote unquote massage, right? That had been in a hotel room where he's made these sexual advances, or these, that he's hit on women, where we could say sexual advances, right? Because that's what he's wanting. He's not wanting a relationship. He's not trying to, go on a date, right? He's in a hotel room and he's in his robe, or, at times, there were other things that occurred, but, here, Weinstein looks a lot healthier. He's been in very, very poor health. He's in a suit, so he has a little bit of his power coming back. But his initial conviction was in 2020, and it included charges of third-degree rape and a criminal sexual act. Right? I don't know what that is. However, in April 2024, New York's highest court overturned the conviction due to improper inclusion of testimonies from other alleged victims not named in the charges, leading to a retrial. So I don't know if he's going to be vindicted, right? So in addition to the New York cases, Weinstein was convicted in Los Angeles in 2022 for the rape of an unnamed woman later identified as Ivania Chernyshova, right? So I don't know who that is, probably a model. These cases have a profound impact on the entertainment industry, leading to increased awareness and changes regarding sexual misconduct and the abuse of power, right? So the infamous couch casting, right? It didn't just happen in porno. It certainly happened in the movie industry and had been going on in the movie industry for decades, right? And this is a guy, that's what people wanted, blood. They wanted, hey, this person used me for sex in order to get the movie, and I want revenge. But they consented. It's consensual adult.
It just turned into total friends. There's pictures of her hugging me when I was sick, when I was sick and in the hospital and didn't think I was going to make it in 1999. Gwyneth at the Golden Globe said, "Bomber, we miss you." She got up and made a speech about me. Nobody asked her to do that. In her Academy speech.
Yeah, I don't think these have, and all this stuff
of a wealthy
has
TV
nothing to
producer,
do with the
great
case.
man.
She could still, say whatever she wants, right? Like she could still, it could still be true, and she could still be friends with the guy. I'm sorry. It could still be true, right? That this occurred, and she's still going to thank him because I've hit on women, for example, and it's been unwanted. And I've gotten that, it didn't, where I was turned down for various, things like that, and had a relationship with that person, with that woman, that was friendly before, right? They probably didn't take me as seriously. Probably, probably thought of me a little, maybe even if they thought of me as a little creepish, I didn't do anything wrong, right? Like, I'm not in a position of power. Depending on what we were doing, I used to just hang out with women and have women that were friends. And, this is completely different for Harvey Weinstein, though, right? They're in a business. I know for a fact. Throughout my career, it's been a long time since I learned at a very young age not to be involved romantically, nor to have any sort of sexual contact, sexual innuendo, anything with a woman at work, right? Nothing professionally, right? And I've always wanted to keep those things separate, right? Because you lose respect, you lose credibility, right? You don't want to lose that credibility, even if you're at a low level, you don't want to have that. I personally don't like it because I feel like I lose power if I'm unprofessional, right? Even if I were in Weinstein's position, I would have felt that attempting to have sex with someone that I'm trying to hire is beneath me, right? I would have thought not that I have like this great higher moral ground, but as a professional, I would have been, no, this isn't going to work, right? Hey, can you introduce, if we're at an event and you're, Gwyneth Paltrow's young friend or, and I'm a dirty old man and her young friend's right next to me, and I'd be like, hey, how you doing, Candace? Like it's unrelated to work. There's no problem if she doesn't work, if she's friends of Gwyneth Paltrow, even if these men were definitely around a lot of young women. And you look at Leonardo DiCaprio and a lot of these people, it's common in Hollywood, right? So it's not, someone could say, what about Leonardo DiCaprio? Is he leveraging his power, his money to date the young supermodels that he is dating? Yeah, he is. Is that coercion? because he's rich, famous, good looking, a movie star? Is that, like, is he at fault for women wanting to have relations with him or him initiating relationships with younger women?
And Blythe Danner, a great actress, with Steven Spielberg as her godfather.
Oh, I never knew
She
that,
doesn't have
Steve.
to do, she could have just said, Harvey asked me for a massage. I'm never working for him again.
Okay, if you consider yourself to be pro-life, here's a wake-up call.
Whoa.
Despite the overturning of Roe, because once she
The magnesium in your cabinet is not
Whoa.
only
Gotta get that out. Gotta get that out. Boom, quick. Sorry.
with heavy metals, but it also can be made.
Let me skip that. Boom. Yeah, that was a thing. Boom.
found to be problematic about the Me Too movement from the beginning is we're conflating he made a pass at me and I didn't like it, right? Or, I turned him down, or maybe I had a bad date with someone with rape. And this is very problematic. And sure, she can say that. I didn't like that he made a pass at me, but to just
I don't think they're conflating that with that. I think that there are, if he's done this enough, who knows? We still don't know what state. Like, he's done it a lot, right? He's more likely, he's done it more than one or two, more than 3 women have accused him of doing this sort of thing. So I would assume that, let's see how many movies that Harvey Weinstein has made. Whoa, let me see this here. I'm guessing that he's produced like literally over 100 movies. I should just go to IMDb to comment. I'm not. But what she's saying is correct, but not accurate, right? He's been the producer of over 300 films, right? Pulp Fiction, Shakespeare in Love, Good Will Hunting, The English Patient, Gangs in New York, Chicago, Django Unchained. The D is silent, right? Django Unchained, right? He has 80 Academy Award wins and 300 plus nominations, right? So he's part of Miramax, which is huge, and the Weinstein Company. I think Weinstein Company, did they do Ridley Scott's movies before Ridley Scott was scot-free? They may have even did Ridley Scott films, right? Like, and Miramax has done everyone, right? So we're not talking about somebody that, is not, we're talking about somebody that could really make you into a star. Like, he put you into one of his movies, you're going to be famous. Like, let's go to Internet Movie, right? Let me go to this. Here, I'm going to play this.
on a train when people are saying I've been raped, I think it's irresponsible for women to do that. I really do think it's irresponsible for people to be conflating being hit on and not liking it, which you've admitted to, and I've been raped.
No question about it. It's all conflated, and it's all led to the idea that I am going to be the one they prosecute. I am going to be the one they persecute. Look, when the case was overturned, they could have dropped it, but they didn't. They just went after me one more time and added somebody to it. But, I can't talk about the case.
Yeah. So he hasn't been exonerated in any form, but man, I mean, he was part of Project Runway, right? The Mist, Amityville, The Awakening, and these are some of the shit things. Time was one of his clients. Six, right? That was an army movie. Wind River, that was a good movie. Man, that was a really good movie. What else he's got? Marco Polo, the show, like Project Runway, All Stars, War and Peace. It is just crazy. Burnt, Macbeth. That's Jennifer Lopez, Dance Again, Project Runway, Paddington. The Paddington Bear movies are from his company, right? Sin City is from his company, right? For all you Sin City heads, he's got a Mandela, Walk to Freedom, The Butler, that was a famous movie. A Better Tomorrow, right? So he's in the Asian films as well, right? Which is crazy. Mob Wives, Django, Codename Geronimo, Aftershock, Killing Them Softly, Piranha. He's got some bad movies too, obviously, right? Apollo 18. That was a huge movie. Scream, Spy Kids. It's ridiculous. Shanghai. It just goes on and on and on. This guy can make you a star. Lots of power in Hollywood, right? So when he's saying, "Hey, come over, give me a massage," more often than not, most of those women are gonna say, "Okay," right? Most of them are gonna. And then when he makes a sexual advance and he does something else, a lot of women are not going to say no, right?
Yeah.
I can just, talk to you about the things that you need to talk to me about.
Right. And I totally understand that. I'm not going to push you on that because
But
that's probably what.
one thing I do want to say is I've asked to have lie detector tests brought into the prison.
It doesn't mean
I
anything.
already took a lie detector test on Jessica Mann, and I scored in the highest level.
Okay, so lie detectors. What is a Chat GPT? I don't think they have no substantial. They're not admissible in a court of law. Right? Polygraphs. Controversial when it comes to their credibility and scientific reliability. Inadmissible in most courts in the U.S. Due to some doubts about their reliability. Some states may allow them in both parties' agreement, but this is rare. The U.S. Supreme Court has never ruled them as scientifically valid, right? So there we go. So he could mention these polygraphs all he wants.
Honesty about not sexually assaulting her or raping her, and I want to do lie detector tests on the others. I know they're not admissible, but I want the world to know that I did that, and I hope the women would just take me up on the challenge and say, "Okay, we'll do it too." But I doubt they will, but I will.
Well, it doesn't matter.
So you know that in Texas, rifles can be carried in public without a license, whereas in Florida, no open carrying is allowed.
Unless when you're hunting and fishing.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things that stunned me is that they didn't report a lot of this stuff in the press. And when I looked at this case and I said, if you're a journalist and you're just interested in anything, why would you leave out these big details?
Candace is not being genuine here. The lie detector is not really important at all.
Shown as proof of your innocence.
Right, like she's not being genuine there. She always has a harp on mainstream media, and I think it's just because mainstream media has, as well as even alternative media, has rejected her, right? And what I would say about that is just like, I think she was an actress before, right? She's not really trained as like a media person like me. So she's no better, but she has more experience on the camera and speaking to people, a lot more experience than I do. But she's not a journalist, right? Like this is giving her credibility here, but she's not a journalist. So, and I don't agree with her. I think that there it was mentioned. I think a lot more was mentioned than we're even discussing here, right? It was a lot more that was discussed.
The courtrooms were something that also stunned me, particularly involving the LA case, which I fully expect to similarly be overturned. It definitely looked like the Me Too movement got so big that they needed to say sort of hang somebody. Somebody's got to die.
Yeah.
So that we can.
I'd agree with her here. I think here that they were looking for their straw man. They were looking for. They needed somebody to hang, right? Not just the Me Too movement, but. And he's not innocent. He admits that he's not an innocent person. That morally he was corrupt, right? That he did some things that were immoral. Right? Like, is not a moral-centered person. If he were a moral-centered person and actually of good character, he wouldn't have been in this position. There wouldn't have been instances and people to come out and say he did X, Y, and Z. Right? So I don't pity or have empathy for him at all.
I think that somebody was definitely you.
100%.
Candace has a political angle here too.
They wanted me in jail forever.
Yeah, and it's quite stunning because I think now, and maybe you recognize this, the Me Too movement is on its way out. If it's not officially gone now, and people are willing.
See, she's got something to, she's got a dog in the fight here. She wants to talk about, the Me Too movement, women and blacks, women and, the African American community. That's her thing. And gays too. Like, that's her, the big three, right? Like DEI, women, like that's what she makes her money on. That's her bread and butter. And now she's in bed with this guy, right? And what's her angle here? Oh, I'm friends with Harvey Weinstein now.
The facts of this case, and I'm wondering if a lot of these celebrities. I'll just give you an example here. Seth Rogen came out when things were happening with you, and he said, "I believe all women coming forward about Harvey Weinstein's sexual harassment. It took bravery to do so." Such a blanket statement to just say, "I believe."
And so what if he made a blanket statement, right?
All women. That was kind of what was being said in 2017 and 2018. Like, women have never told a lie.
I can.
They haven't told a lie, but women. Thank you, Candace, for saying multiple women. And that's the problem even with Bill Cosby. There was multiple women. We're talking of multiple accusers, not just one, right? Not just one person came forward. A lot of women came forward. Same with Harvey Weinstein.
Seth, and I made a movie together called Zach and Miri Make a Porno. It was a Kevin Smith film, and it didn't do well. And I think, sometimes you blame the producer or the distributor, and in this case, they blame me. And it was a good movie, and I wish I could have marketed it better, but I couldn't find the handle on it. And so I think there was always animosity between Seth and myself. So given the opportunity, he took a shot at me, and so be it. But I hear he's doing great work on this. I read about that he's doing amazing work on this TV series he has called The Studio.
Yeah, I heard about it too.
Talented individual, but I was a sitting duck.
Yeah, see, woe is me. I'm the victim. It's like, again, where there's smoke, there's fire.
And look, a lot of these people, I think it was step on his head while he's drowning and it will help you. And I'm sure their PR agents were saying, you don't want to get caught up in this, make the right statement, or you're going to get burned by this.
Oh.
But like I said, some people took it, I think, a bit further. You and I had discussed, and I don't know if we want to talk about this, but Brad Pitt kind of got involved in a Me Too project after this. Kind of got the Me Too movie, so to speak, helping to produce one. And you and him had a very close relationship.
Well, I wouldn't say it was close, but it certainly was friendly. And I guess his company produced She Said, the New York Times writers, and they produced the movie. And I can,
I mean, it's just an instance where there isn't like Harvey Weinstein can't talk about specifics of a lot of things, right? He can't really address. That's why they're talking about these third parties or even fourth parties, like people 10 steps removed or a few steps removed from the case and from what it is, because he really just can't talk about these things. And again, I would not have been on this show. If I were his lawyer, I would say, don't get on this thing.
When it came out, obviously I was concerned, but it bombed so badly. There was no interest in it. It grossed $2.5 million. It was a $30 million movie.
Wow.
Something like that. Or maybe that between advertising and the cost of the film. And the movie grossed $2.5 million its opening weekend, which is disaster. I think it went on to gross $4 or $5 million. So maybe it showed there's no interest in me, but there certainly was no interest in the case. And
I wouldn't go that far, Harvey. There are the movies that are on this topic that really are powerful. I could think of this gal in, it's just, those are like really tough movies, and I don't think they're ever commercially successful that are on this topic, on the topic of sexual assault, because most people don't, it's not entertaining. It's not something that people want to go and experience, right? So they tend not, the point of them is not to gross money. So he's sort of, throwing a little jab at it here, but like the point of these movies are to inform an audience, and it's not really to make money, right? Of course, he's a producer; he's got to think of the money, but most movies about sexual assault and these topics and these themes are made like The Accused, with Jodie Foster, which was big in the '90s. Fuck, this motherfucker might have produced it for all I know. Could have been a Miramax film. I should check. But most of these films aren't like, they're critically acclaimed, and their really intent is to educate an audience. It really isn't to make money. So
New York Times, those writers, I have read something that is so explosive and such a bombshell that a young writer named Clark Patterson, conservative, with a guts
talking
to
with my
write an
hands.
article about what happened to me at the New York Times, a detailed point by point article showing that, that there was no reporting, that they were taking dictation. When they said she said, they meant it. She said, we wrote it down, we never checked it. Rose McGowan said, I donated money to an organization. They never checked, that she did that.
I don't know what to believe, if I believe this guy completely, right? Again, he can't talk too much on specifics, right? He has to generalize. Now he's talking about Rose McGowan, and we mentioned that earlier where, what was it? Rose McGowan was one of his accusers, right? Was Rose McGowan one of his, what did Rose say? Well, Rose McGowan alleges that Weinstein raped her in 1997 at Sundance Music Film Festival. She received a $100,000 settlement and has been a vocal critic of Weinstein, right? So
they never checked, these different things and followed up on and did the research before they wrote the article. Ashley Judd's claims are, ridiculous. I stood in a hotel room. I never touched her, came on to her, nothing ever. I fought for.
But he maybe, they said that she claims, like Ashley Judge claimed, that Weinstein invited her to a hotel room under the guise of a business meeting, then appeared in a bathrobe and asked her for a massage. Possible. Possible, right?
They said I banned her on a movie. I fought for her on Good Will Hunting, and I lost that battle. I thought she would have been fabulous in that movie, and I think she would have gotten an Oscar nomination. But, people could forget. All it is research. There's an article in the Washington Post, if you Google Ashley Judd and Harvey Weinstein, and said that Ashley Judd gushed all over me at the English Patient Oscar party. There's a picture of me holding her hand.
And again, he's going back to after they were stars, right? That isn't what's at question. And I think that what Ashley Judd, and I think a lot of these women, that what they should have done is just came out and told the truth. Right? They like one, all it took was for one of them, even Ashley Judd, to say, I had sex with him because I was young. He didn't coerce me. I felt compelled to do it because I knew it was going to help my career. I'm sad and sorry that that it should have taken that. And then he wouldn't have been in jail, right? But see, they got the best of both worlds by not being completely honest, right? Because that's what I think is happening here, right? Like, this guy's a scumbag. There's no doubt he admits he's a scumbag. There's no doubt that he used his power to have sex with these women, and that was, his power and the ability to make people a star. He was couch casting, and it was part of Hollywood for a long time, and women finally had enough of it. A couple women finally had enough power and ability to say, they were older in life, they were more successful, and they stood up with one woman that accused him of it occurring still, because he was still doing it.
And when she went on TV, she said, see, he's pulling me. He's pulling me. I was just holding her hand, pushing her into the party, bringing her in. But Diane Sawyer and those people at that time, you believed it, because everybody believed those people. at that moment. The New York Times believed no research, no
Yeah, I don't
research
agree with
what
him here, but he's able to again, he's courting the court of public opinion, right? He's out there trying to convince you of something, but he's really not mentioning anything that defends him, that provides any substantial defense for his behavior and his actions, and really is contrary to what these ladies have accused him of doing, right? So he's just talking.
However, I hope this article blows the whole place up, and that the Pulitzer Prize people reconsider.
It turns a two-story into a ranch concept.
Oh. Ad coming up, people. Ad.
Than you even think, because we're similarly following a case with Blake Lively, and it is a case of she said. The New York Times, I think, even worse than that, they wanted to go after this guy. They had friends at the New York Times, the exact same woman who won a Pulitzer, one of the 3 people who won a Pulitzer for taking you down, Megan Twohey, was the one who wrote this piece about Justin Baldoni. And when we got the full details, gratefully, Brian Friedman, and this would have been my legal strategy had I been your lawyer.
Oh, you're not a lawyer.
Every possible detail for the public to be able to read. It is, I think personally.
No, you would not want to do that, right? I do not. And that's a problem here right now with Weinstein. His lawyer should be saying, dude, why are you doing this interview with Candace Owens? We do not need you out there, right? I think he's no longer in a jury trial. I bet he's in a judge's trial for this retrial. So I don't think it's a jury trial. I'm not positive of that, but I should look into this a little bit. But I think he's making a mistake here by talking.
Should be laws. A journalist should have to go to prison. I mean, if you're putting people in prison on the basis of what you write, it just would follow to me that somebody would have to suffer the consequence of lying. These are lies by omission.
Yeah, and if someone's lying, you get them for slander, and you get them fired. You don't have them go to jail, right?
And painting people as, sexual harassers or worse than that, rapists, because you're maybe doing a solid for your friend, which is what it's looking like the New York Times.
Oh, he's doing a solid for his friend. She's mentioning this to the media person, but she's sort of excusing in a way, inadvertently, she's excusing the behavior. You're doing a solid for these women, and you're getting sex for doing a solid for these women. There's nothing wrong with that. It's consensual. It's negotiable. It's transactional. Go on ahead, Harvey. I mean, Candace, you're going to get yours someday. She's a very shallow lady. Don't put a strike on me, Candace.
Have you considered the angle, Harvey, that these are big bosses, WME bosses, are the people who want to buy a piece of your company? Have you made somebody?
I think WME are the owners of the UFC.
Angry. I think that there might have been something more behind the takedown of you, because I can't comprehend it. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I don't know. I think, with the New York Times, I think the relationship was always rocky because I wanted, the New York Times to cover the things that I wanted, and I wanted the New York Times
to be loud.
not to cover some of the things too. So it was a back and forth relationship. And I, on one level, I had a great relationship, with the owner, but the owner of the paper, has a firewall between him and the editorial. There were editorial back and forth. I guess they didn't.
Again, it sounds like he was like, okay, I wanted to coerce to get my narrative out there over this other person's narrative. I wanted to leverage my power, my relationship with the people over there at the New York Times and these other media outlets in order to get my story out. Not looking good, Harvey.
Me, and they wanted me, and I was a good target for them.
How
But
do you think she then won a Pulitzer? That's what's stunning to me. It kind of makes the entire
Pulitzer.
system fraudulent because
Who
you're such detailed. You looked at every.
who cares about that, right? Like Donald Trump's on that thing. Like, who cares if they got a Pulitzer or if they get a Nobel Prize? How do you think she got a Pulitzer for this? Right? They did some, they did their research. They did
Explored every case. I mean, I barely looked at this case before I realized something was very wrong, and I thought you were guilty. By the way, when you and I first got on the phone,
Yep.
I just said I don't even remember what he was in prison for, but there were so many articles that surely somebody did the due diligence and noticed that he was guilty or confirmed that. And it was, I mean, an hour reading into these transcripts, and I went, what's going on here?
Well, this young man, Clark Patterson, has a detailed article coming out, which will detail piece by piece, every
have to
name,
look into this.
every story, everything that they did and everything they didn't do as reporters. And it is a stunning piece. And I hear it's going to be published soon. I
And who
don't
cares?
know where, you know what I mean? But I just heard.
Like, who cares, right? Who cares if, like, reporters said X, Y, and Z? It matters nothing to the case, right? It matters nothing to his case, right? So, but again, this was just, I didn't get myself over here. I didn't get my name over here. I'm Roberto. If you've made it this far, you are about better. I appreciate anybody that has come into the stream. Let me see, or that might watch the stream afterwards, because obviously no one was in the stream, which makes it a little challenging. It's too bad I couldn't have watched it with some of you people, but that's okay. That's all right, people. It's okay. Hopefully the algorithm blesses me with that I'm making content, right? And it continues to send me people here and there, right? That it continues to send me folks to come and listen to me talk about things in this reading the tea leaves. And again, reading the tea leaves, when you see that, it's me just discussing things, right? Like, we're just going to be talking about an article, talking about some news, just shooting the breeze, just talking, people. But again, if you've made it this far, you are about better. I appreciate everybody coming. In summation, there was a media. He is correct that the media can hang you in these things, and I think that to an extent, someone like, for example, in the Diddy case and in the Kohlberger case, they're in a way lucky that there isn't more media focus on them. And Harvey Weinstein is fortunate that there wasn't a ton on him. I forgot what other case was going on that took a lot of that spotlight, but in this day and age, a lot of these folks are, especially Diddy right now, from some of the things that I've been reading about in terms of the court case, he is so fortunate that there are no cameras in that courthouse. Kohlberger, it doesn't matter, because Kohlberger is playing this in terms of a criminal and a suspect the way you should. Calm, cool, not mentioning a word, not out there in the court of public opinion. And Diddy, to an extent, is not doing the same. Weinstein right now, I think he's got a little privilege. I think he's got a lot of money still. He's got some angle, and he might have some juice still, some sway there in New York, where I think this is his retrial is at. And then in LA, where obviously he has like some kind of, a lot of capital, financial, political, as well as just relationship capital. So he is able to like leverage who he is to help himself out, which I think he's doing. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy any of this content. I appreciate it. Hit the notification bell, even though it may not work. And Candace Owens, hopefully you do not tag me or copyright me. I think this is fair use, but if you made it this far, you're about better. Thank you so much for joining the stream. And we'll be back again soon with another Reading the Tea Leaves.